might thread in like Brazil. I mean, like there's all these things
Yeah.
going on with censorship.
Yeah. Yep. The censorship thing. What is that all about? All right. I think we're live now.
Hello.
Jennifer, are you wearing pants?
I just put my pants on.
Well, good,
So
because we wouldn't want to be indecent.
I am appropriately attired now.
How many of you are wearing like something that looks similar on top to on the bottom? Who has like sweatpants or pajama pants under?
I have
Leggings.
black cotton harem pants on.
Oh, that's nice.
They're as thin as paper, and it's what I wear the entire summer when I'm at home or running errands or exercising or sleeping. It's only when I have to make myself presentable that I put on something else.
I'm curious about your harem pants.
They're very. I
Stick a
can
leg
probably
up?
show you. They're kind of, they're nothing
Oh.
exciting. They have the little thing at the bottom, but they
Oh.
are super thin, and it's like the next best thing to being naked. Like I can go for walks in them. They're super comfortable. They're just super thin and cool. So that's what I live in at home.
That looks good. Where do you get them?
No, I was going to say to get some merch.
It's an ad.
Amazon.
This is not sponsored by Amazon.
Yeah, I have like 4 pairs of these. I have pairs with elephants and all kinds of funky designs, and they're super cheap and super comfy.
Mm. Spinster Mountain in the chat says shorts and a sports bra. I'll have to throw on a shirt for my Google Meet at 11.
I like it. That's
Yeah,
the way to go. I'm telling you.
I know. It's one of the work from home perks.
Yep.
I actually have real pants on today. I'm so proud of myself.
Oh, look at you.
Mhm.
Zipper?
No, I mean, they are elastic, but they look nice. Now, let's not get carried away, Deborah.
Right, exactly.
All right. Well, happy Monday, everybody. It's September 9th, and we are here with Solid Ground live stream. Jennifer Friend, Leslie Elliott Boyce, Deborah Knox, and Jenny Holland. It's great to see you guys today. And it's nice to see people in the chat too. Hello, Ninja Kitty. Thank you for being here. Deborah, do you want to start us off with the blurb?
Sure. Solid Ground is a peer support community for anyone concerned about the imposition of critical social justice and/or, authoritarian measures such as COVID mandates in their workplace, university, children's school, or community. We offer weekly online peer support groups in which members share ideas, thoughts, and support for how to navigate the impact of these ideologies and answer the question, where do we go from here? You can join one of our groups for only $5 a month. To find out how to join our community, please visit solidgroundsupport.com. Please note, Solid Ground does not provide psychotherapy or legal advice, and nothing we do should be construed as such.
Awesome. We are actually going to make an announcement soon, but I'll make a pre-announcement. It looks like we're going to be raising our rates from $5 a month, but not very much. So keep abreast of that with us. If you want to join now for a multi-month membership, this would be the time to do it because they're still super low. They're still going to be super low after that, but we'll keep you guys up to speed. We'll probably make an announcement maybe next week as we develop more. So thank you, Deborah, for reading that out. And what is on everybody's mind today? I can think of a few things we might touch on, but we were just chatting right before we went live about censorship and this whole Russia thing, this new wave of people who've been implicated for taking foreign money to develop content. I don't know if we want to talk about that. You want to say a little bit, Deborah or Jenny?
Yeah, Jenny, what were you looking up? Because I think you were getting something there.
Yeah. Well, I haven't really delved deeply into this particular story, this indictment of 2 Russian RT employees. But I did listen to Tim Pool's addressing of it on I think on IRL last week, and he read out part of the indictment itself. And again, not fully grasping the details of what the actual crime was. The indictment really did read to me like the criminalization of an unapproved and inconvenient narrative, as opposed to something that was like, I couldn't understand what the actual crime was. Again, not a lawyer, and I haven't read the indictment, but I find the absolute chutzpah of the United States government to try to throw people in jail for influencing elections or influencing media content when it's what there's a huge NGO army that does exactly that, both in the United States and in Europe with United States money. So I just I've been watching this angle for years now since COVID, where you have a cadre of NGOs like the Stanford Internet Observatory and other groups that are sort of self-appointed internet police. And what they fail to disclose themselves is that they're actually 100% in the tank for the American corporate government media superstructure. So they're not at all unbiased actors. They are not at all unaffiliated. They are entirely affiliated, and their entire purpose is to suppress the having an honest discussion about whatever the issue is, whether it's the COVID issue during lockdowns and vaccine mandates, or the trans issue, or any one of these culture war issues. They fall back on certain arguments. They always try and tie it to Russia, but one of their favorites is the algorithm. What's wrong with the algorithm, and don't trust the algorithm. That's a very easy out for them because it allows them to sidestep. Yes, the algorithm might be feeding you content from Tim Pool or Steve Bannon or Dave Rubin or whatever when you're on YouTube, but it's not the algorithm that hooks the audience. It's the veracity and the resonance of the message, and they'll never actually in good faith address the message. It's the message that is appealing to the disaffected, politically homeless former lefties and former Democrats and populists. It's the message that is gaining audience, not the stupid algorithm. So I despise these people. I despise these people who pretend like they are these sort of sainted warriors for truth when actually they're government apparatchiks. I find it disgusting.
Yeah, it is disgusting. It is shocking that so much of our media has been taken over by people with an agenda. And
Yeah.
we've been living through something just absolutely crazy where we've had propaganda forever.
Yeah.
But it's just so blatant these last few years. Deborah, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, what is and I don't know, like, what is your guys' sense of your average person starting to wake up to this? Like, I don't have a feel because I don't say follow like normal people. Like, do you have a sense there's more people going, wait a minute, or, I don't know. Does anybody have a read on that? No.
Jen looks skeptical.
Yeah, I'm skeptical. And I get it because who wants to spend their lives? People have actual lives, they have jobs, and maybe they have a family that they're dealing with, and God forbid somebody has hobbies and enjoys themselves from time to time and forgets about all this stuff, or maybe they have like health issues and people are just trying to live. And so it's like, if you grew up trusting particular news sources, you are likely to continue to trust them and to just assume that it's, more or less correct, that facts are not being distorted and that you're not being manipulated. Because, this stuff isn't front and center on everybody's mind. And I know plenty of people that don't read past headlines and vote on that basis. And so they really don't know. And so, no, I'm not hugely hopeful that people are starting to become a lot more aware. I think it has to hit the person where they live in their own life, like their workplace or their school or somebody they know is adversely impacted by something. And then they start to think about it more.
Yeah.
I kind of want to give the counter. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, but I think that is definitely happening judging by the few kind of honest broker journalists that are still out there, giving voice, and also like other groups that are giving voice to people at school board meetings, and
That is
taking
good. Yes.
video footage of the drug addicts and the large numbers of unvetted migrants coming into small towns. And that's not just in the United States, it's happening in Ireland, this is happening everywhere.
Yeah.
And those people, because it is coming home to people, and obviously inflation.
Right.
So all of those things are coming home to people because it's literally landing on their doorsteps. And then
Yeah.
they'll probably see those headlines and be like, wait, that doesn't jibe with what I'm seeing with my own eyes. And so I'm probably a little bit more hopeful than you are, but then again, I'm also probably too online, and I probably am in my own bubble online. But it's like the media is constantly asking us, like, who do you believe, us or your own lying eyes? I mean,
Mhm.
it's like the audacity, the absolute audacity of these like effete urban sophisticates swanning around writing these terrible think pieces about how reading to your children is white privilege or some crap, and people then go out the door and there's a whole plethora of socioeconomic disasters facing them on the sidewalk of the towns where they live. And yeah, so the the desperation of the narrative enforcement is
It's an opinion.
Sorry, I thought I was still muted. My dogs are fighting over the new toy, which is a duck.
Well,
I know too.
It's a good soundtrack.
Sorry.
That's okay. Oh, hi. Look, here's my dog with her toy now.
Oh.
Damn dogs. Yeah, so I think reality is crashing into the narrative, and the narrative, the ordained narrative is really coming apart at the seams. And the more it comes apart at the seams, the more they have to rely on these NGOs and these self-appointed experts.
Mhm.
And it's what's unclear to me is how much that is working. I don't think it is working because it's so inorganic. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever done like social media for other culture war issues, but I noticed years ago when I was doing social media for our business, the more authentic and the more heartfelt and the longer the posts that I wrote were, the more engagement they had, because with all its flaws, social media, the audience does respond to true, honest, straight up communication. People like that, so they respond to that. And when you have a very slick or very niche message, the message doesn't go over that well. Like, a really good example, so I've been really into Mike Benz lately, who is a former State Department employee who has an internet freedom organization. I'm not getting the name right, but his name is BENZ, Mike Benz. And he talks about the Atlantic Council, which is this massive, massive philanthropic organization, which is like a front for the CIA, essentially, and it's very pro-NATO. And it organizes these seminars with journalists, apparently, and they all sit them down and they hand holding them through indoctrination and propaganda, so that they might go out then and disseminate this into the wider environment. And there's a few really sinister tells with this NGO funded narrative shaping. Like, one is, don't trust your grandparents. Your grandparents are not a trusted news source, which to me is very communist in its orientation.
Yeah.
Because it's like,
The old-
don't listen to the people who love you and
Yeah.
know you and who are wise and have lived many generations. Those people are bad. Don't listen to them. You should instead listen to Greta Thunberg. Like, literally, like,
Yeah. It's
found
also
these
erasing
snippets.
history.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a real insult to the intelligence of the average person. And I actually remain stupidly optimistic about just basic common sense of people. I'm probably in a minority, but I'm not black-pilled at all about people. I think people are quite capable of making decisions for themselves, even if they don't have, oh my God, a degree from Yale. Imagine such a thing. Even if it's your silly old grandma who wants you to vote for a nationalist populist, because otherwise you're gonna you're gonna have some sort of tranny politician leading you. And I'll side with the grandma every time, like 100%, without even a doubt.
I'm
It
not
sounds like-
exactly black-pilled on this, but I do think that when things are confusing, the reassurance of the everything's okay narratives that come through, and the media is offering ways to channel people's angst into very specific formulated, I guess, containers, like be upset about Trump or whatever the latest thing is. It's just, so there's this very, very well honed harnessing and directing of the angst that's being generated by all of the crazy things that are happening in our culture as we experience this cultural degradation. Just look at this thing that's happening in Ohio right now. This town with 50,000 people that received a 20,000 human bump of Haitian immigrants, and they're completely overwhelmed by this. It's total culture clash. It's total usurpation of an existing culture with new people who are, it's not like 10 new people who can integrate. This is 20,000 people. And so these things happen and people hear about it, and it's very alarming and it's very unsettling. And the media narratives offer you a very tidy way to channel the angst that you're feeling. So it's not I don't feel black-pilled, but I also do see a real mechanism for continuing to assuage people and stop them from asking big questions.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the funnel. When they have SEO to get people to a website and they call it the funnel. I'm just thinking of it being like that. Going back just a second, I was thinking of, I do wonder if it's going to be just your average normie person that breaks out of this, because I think it's more in the elite class. Like I hear lately, there's people who have been New York Times readers who now don't like when there's the occasional New York Times article that actually is saying the truth about something. And people are dropping their subscriptions because they're like, I can't believe the New York Times is becoming so right wing. And so I don't know if it will be like, maybe Jenny, you're thinking like your average person who just has basic common sense can kind of break out of this, and the people who are their prestige, their status, their whatever of maintaining this polarization and thinking those other people are stupid, like whatever, like they're going to be the last to know or something.
Yeah. I think that actually seems to be in process already. I think there was a crazy story out of Ireland last week. Actually, it's kind of a tangent, but it's right up your alley. A school textbook, which I think has now been pulled just today. I think it's showing that it's no longer available for sale. A school textbook for a class, a course that is similar to social emotional learning.
Oh yes, I saw this. Do you have
Relationships.
screenshots?
Yeah.
Oh, with the outfits?
Yeah, no, it was a lesson in like the difference between traditional Irish families and new Irish families, and the students are asked to sit with their eyes closed, listening to the teacher read these two blurbs. And the blurb for family A, which is the traditional family, is that they don't know anyone who lives abroad. They only go on holidays in Ireland. They only play Irish instruments. They only play Irish sports. They eat cabbage, bacon, and potatoes. Which is like literally racist. I mean, that's like, and the father, and the most important was they own their own business, and the children are expected to enter the business.
I'm sharing this
Oh,
from
thank
your
you.
website. So this is Jenny Holland's Substack right here. You guys can find it. It's Saving Culture from Itself. And it's always linked under the videos for the Monday live stream. So I'm just going to come to these so that people can look at these images that you're talking about. I don't know how big this is coming up. Is this really tiny for you guys?
The writing is, but the picture is clear.
You can see it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's
Mhm.
see. Oh, whoops. So maybe I
Yeah.
can increase the screen, but this is, so you can go and you can read these yourselves. I'm just going to show as she talks about it.
Yeah. So this family, it has its own business, and the daughter wants to become a yoga instructor, but the father won't let her because it's not a real job. And he wants her to join the family business again instead. I mean, this is literally, I call it in my piece, like dekulakization. I mean, this is, targeting productive, entrepreneurial, self-employed, small business owner class because they're a threat to the narrative yet again. And then there's
Right.
family B,
Well,
who
and
are
this is
all
like a
different.
forced conservatism too, it seems like,
Yes.
because
Yes.
these kids want to do something more adventurous, but the parents are holding them back with their culture. Yeah.
Yes.
And the family be here.
And Family B, as you can see, is multiracial. They love going abroad. They love they love pizza, curry, and Chinese food. And I mean, just the most base and also very inaccurate stereotypes. Like, I actually don't mind stereotypes because I find that they're normally fairly accurate. But whoever wrote this is an actual moron because, first of all, every tiny Irish village has a Chinese takeaway and a pizza restaurant, and every supermarket in Ireland up and down this country is full of, foreign food products. And every single Irish person of all classes, this is not just a middle class and upper class phenomenon, they all travel. They're the most famous immigrants in the entire world. They're like some of the most well-traveled people on this earth. They have repopulated continents. So everything about the stereotypes is incorrect. But the most sinister part of this is that they're asking the children to choose which family they would prefer to be a part of.
Well,
It
and
is
look at the
nice.
symbolism here. Look at
Yes.
this mother, how excited she is. She's so
Yes.
liberated. She's got her arms thrown up. Look, she's
And
so happy. And her husband is
so
delighted with her, and her
Yes.
kids are cool. And then
And
look
her
at
kids
this
are cool, and
family.
there's
She's
such super weird
We're all in
detail where the
sweaters.
brother
she's
goes
got
to
her arms
volunteer.
crossed,
Yeah,
and her
yeah.
husband is holding her down. Oh,
Oh man.
with his pitchfork,
yeah.
literally with a pitchfork.
Come
And
on.
the family, the cool family, has a brother who goes to volunteer in Syria. You're like, what are you talking about? Like, what? This is the most bizarre po-faced nonsense I've ever seen in my life. And it's such a sinister and obvious attempt to destroy to demoralize Irish children.
This
Like, what
is
else could it
just like the
possibly be?
sexual stuff that the kids are
Yes.
getting, and that other the like we're going to show you all these examples of somebody bullying a non-binary child, and then we're
Yes.
going to ask you questions that prompt you further. Look at these questions. Name any advantages you can think of about being part of family B. Name any
Yes.
disadvantages about being part of family
Yes.
B. Which family is more inclusive? Do you think this is a good or bad thing? Well, everything you just wrote to me is about how good it is to be inclusive. So what do you want me to say?
Yeah, it's leading. It's completely
Totally
leading.
leading.
Totally
It's
leading,
not
yeah.
teaching critical thinking. It's leading you to the answer that they want you to produce. And demoralizing, I think, is the correct word, Jenny. It's like it's really shaming. Like
Shaming.
your culture is just this bland, unsophisticated, negative thing that you should be trying to shed, and you're an unsophisticated rube. And I just think there's so much of that directed towards the West overall, and largely targeting white people and people that are Christian, either by how they were raised or by their culture. There's just this concerted effort to demoralize and demean.
And isn't this
a
kind of
group of
coming up in
people.
our own election, because Walls, wasn't there that taco discussion
Yes.
with Kamala, and he's like, I don't like pepper on things or something. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a white man and I'm bland. I mean, like,
Oh my gosh, really?
yeah.
Yeah,
Now,
weird.
meanwhile, I heard that he actually was in some sort of chili cook-off, and he has a recipe that's very spicy, but like he presented himself sort of like this,
Oh,
like, I'm just
so he's her
bland
foil in that
man.
way. He has to play
Yeah.
the foil to her exoticness or her minority status or whatever that is.
Yeah, I'm this non-threatening bland person.
That's really interesting. This is, yeah, somebody in the chat. Let's see if I can find it. Gosh, people are really into this thing. Student of Rhythm says, notice that the cool people are the ones who can afford to travel. That's interesting. And then Honest Dog Al says the goal is a worldwide monoculture. That's for sure. It's definitely colonialism in that regard.
It is, yeah. That's a very good
Yeah.
point.
And somebody else a little while ago, I think it was Spinster Mountain, said, most of my friends on the left are so excited about Kamala, I'm losing hope. And this ties right into what we're talking about with the real propagandistic push of these media narratives, that it's really interesting. I've been doing pottery. I've been learning wheeled pottery. And I've been going to this pottery studio. So I was there on Friday, and during the day, there were two other ladies there who were talking to each other. It was clear they were there when I got there, and I was there for 4 hours, and they were there the whole time. So I heard lots of their conversation, and they included me in it a little bit because it's just, we're kind of it's a big room, but there's three of us in this room together. And they seemed to know each other, but it was clear from their conversation that they had both arrived separately. They hadn't planned on meeting each other. It was just like a happy meeting of people who happen to know one another while they work together or work on their separate projects next to each other. And a lot of their conversation was political. And it was this, they talked about how they were excited. These are older women, probably like 60s or so. And they were talking about how they were getting bumper stickers and yard signs for Harris Walls. And they were really excited about Kamala. And so this is what Spinster Mountain is saying here. And this ties into what you were saying about hope that people are starting to wake up. I wanted to ask them, so many thoughts went through my head during this time. First of all, you're having this really political discussion in front of somebody that you haven't checked in to see how this person thinks about this. And you're expressing a lot of really strong opinions that could be very alienating for some people. And how likely would this be to be a conversation from the other side of the aisle that I would be, and I'm not on the other side of the aisle. I'm not in the aisle. I feel like, or maybe I'm in the aisle. I'm standing in the stupid aisle, but I'm certainly not on that side of the aisle. So these people that it feels like a manufactured, astroturfed sort of zeal for Harris.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask these women, how did you come to be excited about her? Were you excited about her like a year ago? What is your excitement about Kamala Harris? Did it come on suddenly? I mean, not that they would probably be aware of it, even if it were.
So Kamala disorder.
Kamala, yeah, sudden Kamala. Okay. Yeah, but it made me wonder, like like what Spinster Mountain is saying here. Your friends are so excited. I haven't been so excited about a politician in a long time. I'm not so excited about anybody. The last one was Obama, and no, I take that back. It was Bernie. So I guess I was excited about Bernie Sanders back before, the Hillary DNC thing and all that. But it feels like it's very driven by these media narratives. Like they say, get excited for Kamala. We're all so excited. And then the people respond, we're so excited for Kamala.
It's like that meme.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I think it's definitely been astroturfed. It's 100% smoke and mirrors by a very sophisticated media spin operation. But I will say this. As terrible as Kamala is substantively, she's very good in little sound bites. I know that. I mean, I can't express how much I loathe her and how much I hope she doesn't win the election. But there's a certain she has a certain way about her that's very familiar.
Mhm.
And it reminds me, I should say, it reminds me of friends, like friends that I
Yeah.
have,
I can see that.
Hmm.
I
And
can see it.
so if you imagine this from the point of view of a blue no matter who person who themselves would be feeling very demoralized by Biden because Biden was like a borderline corpse who could not string a sentence together. And I miss those days when we could stand around and laugh at his terrible, terrible sound bites. She is going to give you a sort of a euphoria, like a gender boner. Like what do they call those moments where they get like the men get like these boners like passing as women. Because she has a certain quality about her that I think can resonate with a lot of people, young women, middle-aged women. I don't know about men, but she reminds me of one of my friends. Basically, she really literally does, and a person I love very much. But I wouldn't necessarily think that she should be president of the United States. Like I don't think I should be president of the United States.
Well, this reminds me of the George W. Bush argument. Like
Yeah.
when he was, people were trying to be excited about him. One of the big things that people would say is, he's a guy you could have a beer with.
Yes.
And, well, that's
yes.
great, but Is that
And
a
everyone was
president?
making fun of her for her, like, cracking an egg with one hand, and I was like, "Actually, no, that's a good spot for her." Like, I can't well, first of all, I can't do that, but, like, I mean, I thought she came across as very natural. It's like there's times when she can appear very natural, and of course, they're very small amounts of time that she has to do that because she's being managed so tightly, and she's not ever, ever, ever really challenged or ever going off script. So they're obviously giving her a huge assist. This is not like she's not a capable, competent person in terms of what the job would require. But she's just good enough in very short pieces of time and pieces of content that if you were a person who is despondent because Biden was obviously circling the drain, you're going to feel like this rush of relief and almost like you're getting back together with a bad boyfriend and you're like so happy about it for a brief period of time before the really calamitous crack up that happens, which is going to be the election, obviously. So I kind of get it. I do kind of get it.
Mhm.
So just
Cheeky
so
Mayor
what,
says,
Oh, go
I'll
ahead.
just say this real quick, read this one. Cheeky Mayor says, my boyfriend's mother is a default Democrat. She was not excited about Biden. She is elated to vote for Kamala. Go ahead, Deborah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's the TDS, right? There's the tribal piece. Like I just have to stay with my tribe because what's amazing me is maybe nobody really ever makes decisions based on policy, but it was only, I think, just today or yesterday she even put any policy on her website. And even that, it's quite broad. It's like improve some large, whatever, right? Like there's no specifics. And so the fact that people are just going on, yeah, the vibes. I think some people are going on the woman, we want a woman. It is uncanny. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Do we want to go on the code switching? Because there was that point that
Yeah,
you
that's
had
one of
also,
the things I
Leslie.
was thinking about is, I don't know if you guys saw this. There was a split screen that went around on Twitter that showed a clip from two different campaign rallies that Kamala gave in the same day. These were 5 hours apart. I don't remember where they were. I can't remember the cities, but two different
Detroit
cities. Detroit was one, and
and
what was the
somewhere in
other?
Pennsylvania, I think.
Okay,
Pittsburgh?
okay,
I don't know.
maybe so. That sounds right. I almost should pull it up. Maybe I'll look for it in a second. But it shows Kamala addressing both crowds, and in one, she's giving a very similar speech. In fact, maybe I will pull that up. If you guys want to chat for a second, let me see if I can find that. I'm going to mute myself and look for it.
It would be interesting to see. What's interesting is I saw some commentators on that and some, especially people that were Black, talked about sometimes like that's just a thing, like we do need to code switch. So it's like I'm having a hard, where is it just this total insincere BS and where is it like people do that? I don't really know.
Well, do you not remember during the 2016 election, Hillary Clinton said, "I got hot sauce in my bag"?
Yeah,
And
that's
Beyonce actually put it in a song, "I got hot sauce in my bag." I mean, that like, nothing can be as bad as that. Like, literally nothing Kamala will do in terms of the pandering could ever be as bad as, Hillary Clinton's hot sauce in her bag claim.
All
Yeah, I
right,
mean,
I found it. Let's see. I'm going to share this. Let's see. Does it give me a share sound? Okay, share sound. All right. Can you guys see my Twitter right now?
yep.
All right.
Yeah.
So this one.
Thank a union member.
So here she is. Why is it not doing it?
You better
Okay.
thank a union member. For the 5-day work week, you better thank a union member for sick leave. You better thank a union member for paid leave. You better thank a union member for vacation time. You better thank a union.
Okay. And then here, this was Detroit that you just heard. Here's
Thank
Pittsburgh.
unions for sick leave. Thank unions for paid family leave. Thank unions for your vacation time. Thank unions.
All right. So that's interesting, isn't it? It is, to me, so I had this, I posted on Twitter just a question, what's with the vocal affectation? And one of the responses I got was a person who then continued to debate with me about this. She kept responding to me and I kept responding to her. And it was all about, well, this is just code switching. If you don't like it, then that means that that you have a problem. Like I'm being racist by calling this out. She kept referring it to it as AAVE, which is African American Vernacular English, but she kept on putting that big all caps. This is AAVE. What are you saying, that you have a problem with AAVE? You know, and no, this is, if it was a code switch, which that phrase seems to have gotten popularized around the time of the popularity of the concept of microaggression. I mean, we have existing sociological and social psychological concepts of role variation. So people play different roles with different people. It's kind of like the classic one that I think is really funny is like when your mother is yelling at you, she's like, you, blah, 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 and then she picks up the phone, hello.
Yeah.
And, you know, so that's a really, that we don't call that code switching, but that's essentially the same thing. You're going to show up differently in different settings because of the different relationships that you have with different people. And if some of those are very relaxed and maybe like culturally different, you might have a way of relating to your friends that involves like swearing and you know, having a lot of slang or whatever it is. But then when you show up at work, you button it up and you speak properly and you're very professional. So that's familiar. I think everybody gets that. But the thing with this Kamala thing, this isn't a code switch. This isn't a difference in role. It's the exact same role. You are a politician on stage at a campaign rally. So the only difference, she's playing the identical role. She's just playing it to a perceived different audience. And that's where it feels very disingenuous and very inauthentic, because it's saying that based on what I think of you, I'm going to alter me. It's not based on how I'm relating to you, because I'm relating to you in the identical capacity. I'm a politician giving you a speech. I'm talking down to you by adjusting the way I talk. It's like if she's, anyway, so I'm going to leave it at that and let you guys weigh in on what you think.
Of the study that they did, that it was liberals who often talked down to Black people, like wasn't when they changed their vocabulary more or something like that than conservatives would. Was there some study of that nature?
That
I
rings a
forget.
bell.
Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I live in a I'm kind of familiar with code switching in the sense that because I live in Northern Ireland and I have an American accent, I change the way I speak depending on who I'm speaking to. A lot of the time, I think my more natural register is in a very American accent, and I really tone it down a lot if I'm speaking to like around passersby or in shops or, you know, chit chat with people. And the more comfortable I feel, the more American I sound, just because that's the easiest way for me to communicate. And I understand like the desire to sort of to blend in. You want to blend in, right? So you don't want to stand out, and so you want to change your voice a little bit so that you do that. But this insistence that everything that you know, everything to do with you know, African American culture has like a special sacred status, and no one else can possibly understand, and no one else can possibly comment, and it's tiresome. It's like gives me PTSD, remembering the worst days of like even watching from very far away the terrible Evergreen disaster, and you know, and the most extreme manifestation of racism. And it's just such such low hanging fruit. It's such an easy out to say, well, I don't have to explain myself, and I don't have to do this, and I don't have to do that, and I don't have to do that because I have special status. Obviously what Kamala is doing there is a pantomime. And if anything, it's offensive because it's so exaggerated and so clownish, and not even, I mean, she's not speaking like even a person of her age and sex would normally speak. She's not a preacher. She's not a foundational Black American either, by the way. You know, she's a Jamaican Indian. So like, that's not her bag. That's not her heritage. And the willingness of these chattering classes on social media to allow her to get away with it is tiresome, but not surprising.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the person that was responding to me kept saying, well, she went to an HBCU. So she was using AAVE, HBCU, and she used them over and over again. And I found this really zoological. It's kind of like, well, let me explain to you how these people are. And it felt very, I feel like that's something. It was also, she was white, clearly from her little profile picture. It's like, I'm going to tell you about these people. This is why it's okay that
Oh,
they act like this in the wild.
I,
It's like, it felt very,
I
very
have a crazy
infantilizing.
example of that like white girl savior thing. I shouldn't even say it publicly because I know, so let's just say I know someone
But you
who did
will.
that. I'm not going to give any identifying information, but this is years ago. This is the height of the campus mayhem during Trump's administration. And yeah, it was a post, dear white people, if you find yourself in a conversation with a person of color and you want to make a joke about something, stop and run it by me first.
Whoa.
And this
Wow.
person was not a person of color.
Oh my gosh.
Because you don't
Wow.
understand. And I do. I am the keeper. I am the
I
special white
know
person.
how these people operate.
I know
I know
these
what
people,
will,
literally,
yeah.
it's
Oh
like,
my
I am
God.
the special white person with
Decoder
the
ring.
special knowledge.
Yeah. Decoder ring.
Cultural ambassador.
God.
Yes.
And
Oh, that's
I
perfect.
genuinely, I can't think of anything more offensive. I mean, Kamala's fake accent there is similar. It's in the same trajectory as the Irish textbook. It's offensive and
Mm.
it's portraying a very authentic, very real, very rich culture in the most like venal and mercenary and manipulative way.
So DM in the chat says Kamala was raised in an upper middle class family in Canada. So she is code switching to a black scent rather than code switching from AAVE to proper English talking like most Americans. And somebody else here,
Very good
that's
point.
that's how it.
That's a very valid point.
Someone else said that Hillary did the same thing. S. Koval 7
Y'all.
says,
I mean, she kind of yawl a little bit, like in the South. I don't know. There was a yawling going on.
well,
Yawling.
Bill's from Arkansas. Where's Hillary from? Because, I'm from
remember.
Texas and you say
Illinois?
y'all. And so I try to be more proper most of the time, but my y'alls come through. I don't know. That's not to defend Hillary. She's indefensible. And if she switched to a drawl, I'd be pretty, I don't know.
No,
I
she
mean,
definitely did. She
like
definitely
you-
switched to a draw at some point.
The
but
Southern-
like what you were saying, Jenny, we do modulate a little bit. Like when you might slip into a more Irish sounding. Somebody in the chat wants to hear your Irish accent, by the way. But my father's from Kentucky, and when he would be around his family when I was growing up, his sisters would come to visit. Suddenly, my dad had the thickest drawl, and it would just come back out. It's like that's where you're from, and these are your people, and it just slides back in. So I do understand that. I totally get it. But I think what the chatter said, what DM said about her. This is not her authentic baseline.
Yeah, she's not sitting around in a relaxed moment talking like that.
No.
Yeah.
And there are people on Twitter, there are Black commentators on Twitter who I don't even know necessarily that they're like right wing or anything. I think they're actually not, but they point that out. This is not the same, like this is not the same family legacy. This is not the same cultural experience as someone whose family did descend from chattel slavery brought to the United States. It's not the same experience. It's not, and if you want to play the identity politics game, which I strongly advise against, because it really is it's like a one-way ticket to hell. But she's completely carpetbagging this identity, and because she has a certain skin tone that allows her to pass, it's like, well then yay, suddenly she's like, completely and utterly part of this, but it's entirely a narrative. It's entirely spin. She was literally raised in Montreal. Her mother is Indian, her father is Jamaican. They both came to the United States as young adults, as far as I know, right? Did they even come as children? They were professors.
I'll say this. I like when we get criticisms. I actually enjoy them because I like to respond to them. 97 cents says, well, let me find it again. I just scrolled past it. Here you are all being offended on behalf of Black people, though. And I'm not offended on behalf of anything but the truth. I think it's really gross to see somebody being so inauthentic. It's not on behalf of someone else. It's just it's like watching a rhetorical fallacy in action. Like this kind of let me interpret for the other. I'm not offended based on putting myself in the position of the person she's interpreting for. I'm just kind of finding that inauthentic and slimy behavior sort
It
of
kind of ties on the
socially
astroturfing, that astroturfing concept we were already talking about, right?
Mhm.
So it's just sort of, like there's layers of fakeness.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, maybe I would say that maybe I am being offended on behalf of Black people to the extent that if that was like I find, and I know I have an American accent, I was actually born in Ireland and blah, 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 but like to the extent that I find that textbook extremely offensive, if I were a Black person, I would find that, I know I would find that offensive. Like if I had, Black, like if I was a descended from American slavery person, I would find her very offensive. I mean, I just would. I think it's such a dishonest way of representing herself for political advantage.
Well, and
I
then
don't find I don't find it offensive.
Uh-huh.
I find it annoying, but I am annoyed entirely on behalf of myself, not anybody else.
97 cents says, do you hear yourselves policing her Blackness? And so I'll respond to that. Do you remember when Madonna started using a British accent?
Yes.
I
she
found
did?
that
Oh.
so annoying. I thought this is ridiculous. And then who else was it? It was Lana Del Rey. When she first changed from Lizzie whoever to Lana Del Rey, she took on that staged persona and she started speaking differently. I had that criticism too. I mean, the only person I was talking to was my husband. It was just like, this girl is so fake. Are you kidding me?
I think Hilaria Baldwin too. Like Alice Baldwin.
Yeah, that was
something got Hispanic
and
or
I'm
something.
I'm not policing somebody's Britishness or their New Englandishness or their Spanishness or their Blackness. I'm just pointing out
fakeness. You're policing their fakeness.
It's the policing. It's the fake, and it's the fakeness that you're objecting to. And same here. And it's funny because if you're believers at all in the Enneagram, and I sort of like the Enneagram, but I'm not like, religious about it. But on the Enneagram test, I'm an individualist. And one of the core features of individualists is, for whatever reason, we are enraged by anything that seems fake to us. I mean, it makes us like, wah! And so I just have this visceral reaction because I feel like somebody's trying to put something over on me, when somebody's being fake. And so it just,
Yeah.
Yes, Finster Mountain is performing a citizen's arrest. She says she's policing his wokeness. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Well, that's why we could say people were joking that Walls is putting on whiteface. Like, like he's extra white facing.
That is offensive. Yeah. It's so embarrassing and offensive.
I love this. I really do appreciate 97 cents. I'm glad. It's hard when you're in a chat and everybody's agreeing with the commentators and you have a different opinion. And I'm glad that you're expressing your different opinion. And I want to continue to take comments like that because I don't want to
absolutely.
So
it makes it more fun.
I'm thinking 97 cents is a he, so I'm thinking he in my head. But so 97 cents says, you said she doesn't have a Black enough life experience. And I think that's easy enough to say. That's the same thing with Madonna. She didn't have a life experience that would naturally make her have that British accent. And we all knew it because we all saw her before it. It's not about being Black enough or British enough or whatever enough. It's just inauthentic. So I think that caps that off, unless you guys want to talk about that some more. I don't know. Yeah, Ninja Kitty says she does not have a Black experience life. She has celebrated only her Indian heritage her whole political life until it's an advantage to be Black now. I don't know.
I will make an argument for her. I do believe because she spent some time like in Oakland, Berkeley growing up. And I think there were kids in the neighborhood who were African-American Black that she was friends with. I don't know how many years she was there before she moved to Canada. So I want to give a little bit, not like she just completely, even as a child was just removed from this whole thing.
I'm very interested in the response from 97 cents is a frequent commenter. I really enjoy your participation and feedback in our chat. I always enjoy your comments. And this person on Twitter also was the reason I kept engaging with this person was because it was a respectful dialogue. We were disagreeing, but it remained respectful. And I find it very interesting that people are ready to jump to defend this. Like they see this and then they see people calling it out and going, whoa, that looks pretty fake. I mean, you talk in two different ways at two different rallies, same day. That looks fake. Why the big defensiveness of this? Why is it so personally triggering to have people call this out? I wonder about that.
Well, especially because this person is one of the most powerful people in the world, in theory. I mean, I don't understand, I don't think she needs any of us to defend her or any regular old Joe Schmo on the bloody internet to defend her. Like she's doing just fine. She's done quite well for herself with her fake nonsense. So, the idea that, it's just people have protected categories and sacred cows, and this just happens to be one of them. I will also say, though, in her defense as well, Deborah, like literally all politicians pander. That is absolutely part of the job. Every election that I can ever remember is someone putting on a dumb accent and trying to convince some like salt of the earth blue collar workers that they should vote for them, even though they're going to like destroy their communities and ship all their jobs to China or whatever. You know what I mean? Like this is the part and parcel. Yeah. Part and parcel of the job is to lie through your teeth and kiss ass and then immediately do an about face once you get elected and pretend like voters mean nothing. Like that's just how the system works. So, we shouldn't be too hard on Kamala for participating in the same thing that Hillary has. And
maybe
Obama
we should be hard
and
on all of them for it. Maybe that's one of the things that just makes the form of the politician a ridiculous form. That it's a problem. I mean, when we're voting for president, I guess I used to be idealistic enough to think that we were voting for somebody who mattered in some kind of way. And now I just see it as we're voting for the figurehead. It's like spokesmodel of the 4 years. Let's vote for the next American spokesmodel, like 4 years of this face to represent your country. And it feels very, very shallow and meaningless at this point.
For the success of Trump, right? Because he doesn't give a damn what.
Well,
he just
that's
says
actually
random
a good point.
What he thinks, right? Like whether you like it or not, whether you think it's crude or not, or racist or whatever you think.
I think that's why people don't want him to be the spokesmodel. Because he
actually doesn't pander. That's actually a really good point, Deborah. I can't think of a time where he's been in a room and completely switched his personality. He's always himself, which is, a really good and really bad thing. Because, like, if you're like me and find him the way he presents himself to be off-putting, you're never going to get a break from it. Although he can be more circumspect sometimes, but he certainly doesn't fake it, and try and pretend that he's in with your particular group. He's just utterly himself. He's like a bull in a china shop.
Yeah.
Oh, does anyone remember when he went to North Korea and told the dictator that they had some really nice beaches and they could build some really great hotels on them? And it was just like, and was Kim Jong-un or Il, I forget which one, is standing there looking like genuinely shocked and terrified and like, I mean, I don't know if it was fear or just like complete and utter disbelief that a world leader could come out and be so unpolished, I guess, or just so himself and not like slick, like maintaining the facade and sticking to the script. He doesn't do that at all. You're just like, you're talking about building hotels in North Korea. This is wild. So I used to hate that about it, but I thought it was really terrible. And now I've grown to sort of be somewhat fond of it because the alternatives are so terrible.
Abracadabra says it's the lack of finesse in her pandering that is off-putting.
Like it's got cringe level
It's
pandering.
got cringe. Yeah, it's not slight. It's not subtle. And I don't know. Trump, that's a good point. Ninja Kitty's agreeing. Trump could not care less about color, race, or sexual orientation. He's authentic. With that comes an unfiltered mouth, and that is an issue for him for sure. I'm not the biggest fan of him, but I do see that. I do think he's a bit of a pragmatist, so I don't trust his policy decision. I don't trust his policy proclamations. In fact, I've seen him, I really just, he he started to gain me and then started to lose me at the same moment
Yeah.
during COVID when he was making some sense just in terms of not being such a propagandist as the other people who were standing up and talking to us, but then started going on this warp speed vaccine thing at the same time. So I don't know, but I do agree that he does. I can't think of him really changing his affect in order to pander. I can't
No.
remember
Oh,
ever seeing that.
you know who we should have also given an honorable mention to is AOC. She's a good one for it as well.
Oh, yeah.
She's done the kind of like black preacher thing, which is even like just even more embarrassing. And she does the video she did from inside her office or inside one of the buildings on January 6th, like the panic. I mean, she's an actress through and through. Like you really do see her as like, oh, you're like a theater kid. You're performing here. You're not this is not an actual political job for you. This is something else entirely. It's very weird. It's disconcerting.
The
But
preacher affect.
I think she's a
Yeah.
lot less finessed than Kamala, who I actually do think has some finesse about her, actually.
That's what I saw in Kamala too, was the preacher affect that you're talking about. That's how I read that.
Obama had that. I mean, I was all into Obama, but there was that bit of that cadence kind of delivery, not way over the top. Like he could do it subtly. Like I think he could do it in a way that was sort of energizing and not like, way, way, way over the top. And he got accused of stuff too, right? Because I mean, his father was, from Africa and his mom's white, and he grew up, like raised in Hawaii, but then he was in Indonesia. And so then him kind of coming in and speaking more for the, African American experience.
Yeah.
He got, kind of nailed for that by some people.
I guess what I really find interesting about this kind of dialogue is how people get heated up for politicians. Like, Jenny, was it you that said she's one of the most powerful people in the world? I don't think she needs us to defend her. How do people come to a point where they get personally invested in what other people think about a politician? That it's really quite fascinating because, and I know that the drive to get people to vote is all about pathos. It's all about creating an emotional urgency. And I find that really dangerous and unsettling, that this is how our politicians play the people. They play on their emotions with threats about how bad your life is going to be if you don't elect me. It feels like a organized crime where we're gonna get those guys to go break in your shop windows, but you can pay me for protection, and I'll keep them out of your neighborhood. Wow. I feel like that's the kind of feel, and are we just trauma bonding to our politicians through these sorts of threats? Is that what's going on? Because it's, when you see good people get heated up in defense of this person, like Trump. There's Trump supporters too are the same way. Like they're so firm. You can't say anything about him because they will, really take a lot of heat for what they're going through for him. They really will, I guess, get heated up is what I'm trying to say, over what they think of him.
Yeah. And family relationships break up over this stuff. I just feel like, we're being constantly manipulated by politicians, by the media. And my reaction to it is I want to withdraw entirely from society. It actually doesn't make me want to vote. It makes me want to go live in a cabin in the woods and, just get away from it all, because it just all seems so fake. And what is it going to matter when I'm on my deathbed? That's where my thinking starts to go with it. I think I have a bit of a sense of fatigue over everything, especially everything that's happened since 2020.
I do think some people, because I was sort of one of these people who was crazy about candidates. So it's like, what was it with me? I think some people do like being inspired, and they like thinking there's a cause, and they like having their champion. And I did watch a lot of actually friends of mine who were defending like another candidate and even doing underhanded things, like watching that happen because they were so invested in their person. I don't know if there's a human thing, at least for some people, to just really want the leader and then project a lot onto them and then do this protecting function. It's just like a tribal
A
thing that's going to be in
I
a lot
think
of
it's
us.
a savior thing. Like we all want a savior, maybe, and maybe we see politicians sort of as our saviors.
I mean, is it sort of the parasocial relationship phenomenon as well, that people get really invested in the lives of other people on the internet and through celebrity status, which politicians have now? And
Mm.
I think also, you I know people, many people, maybe most people, I don't know, but like it's very hard for people to be objective. And like people who defend their own kids, defend kids even though the kids are in the wrong. They'll try and sabotage another kid to protect their own kid, even if their kid is the one who's done the wrong thing, instead of being fair and acknowledging that, and having consequences and moving forward. I think it's like that the same, like, and maybe it is that tribal thing where it's like the political personality becomes part of your family identity, and then it's like, well, we have to defend them to the death, even if they're a like decrepit, half dead old man or a clearly fake incompetent woman. We're going to still stick with them because there are guys. I do not have that. I think I probably would test the same way as you, Jennifer, on the Enneagram. And I really hate joining groups. So I'm like, always like, I don't want to.
Yeah. It's
So,
interesting. It does seem indicative of the degree to which we allow these people to symbolize good and evil to us. And it's quite interesting to live through this moment and watch it happen. And thank you all for joining us. I guess that's a wrap. It's 11 o'clock here, which means it's what, 2 o'clock for you guys on the East Coast. And Jenny, it's who knows
7
what
p.m.
o'clock. 7. Okay. Cannot do all those time conversions.
Time for you to eat your potatoes, Irish
Yes,
woman.
exactly.
If your husband make potatoes, yeah.
Don't do any yoga. That's not part
Definitely
of your
not.
culture.
The devil might come in. Yeah.
And
Well,
wear
it
a
was-
big white sweater, nice fisherman's
Right,
sweater.
a fisherman's Irish.
Actually, I
fisherman's
have
sweater.
one. Oh, I'll wear it next week. I'll try and remember.
I love
It was knitted
those.
by my great aunt who worked in a mill her entire life, and she hand
Oh.
knitted me my Aran jumper, and I still have it.
Oh,
They're
wow.
fun to knit.
That's cool. Make sure your husband is there with his pitchfork to hold you down
Yeah.
and keep you in place. Well, it's nice to see you all today, and it was great to have everybody in the chat. Thank you so much. And thank you, 97 cents, for your, Ninja Kitty says thank you, especially for pushing back on all of us. And I do appreciate that so much.
Yeah.
I always like the respectful dissent and the counterpoints, because sometimes they add something really important that we haven't considered. And
Yeah.
sometimes it helps us to strengthen what we already think. But either way, it's great to be able to engage with it.
Yeah.